You will know today's guest as he's been making everybody, including myself, laugh on the stage and on the screen with his one-man shows and his countless television and Panto appearances. And now he's back. He's back with a terrific book. It's called Curtain Call to Murder. And you can tell from it that he is clearly channeling many years of the roar of the grease paint, as they say, and the smell of the crowd. And he's here to talk about that and other stories. Welcome, Julian Clary. What a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for being here today.
How lovely in your nice, clean studio.
Isn't it?
I've been in some grubby ones.
Yeah. A lot of radio studios are in basements.
I know,
As you
and
know.
they don't clean them. But no, I've no complaints here.
Okay.
I can live with the carpet squares.
I know over your shoulder you see a nice view of the City of London there. It's quite nice too.
I'm only looking at you. Ryan.
Only for now. Congratulations on your new book. I mean, I love it. Tell us about the elevator pitch. Give us a sense of it first, and then we'll dive in and see.
It's about a new play that opens at the Edinburgh Festival. It's a big hit, goes on tour, and then transfers to the London Palladium, where on the opening night, with everyone watching and all the celebs there, something awful happens and somebody is killed, and the only person who can work it out is Jane the dresser.
Yes.
That's the plot.
Yes.
But it is funny along the way. I decided to. I enjoy making people laugh, be it on the page or anywhere else.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's kind of funny, but also you've got to guess who did it.
Did you, when you were coming up with this idea, was it a process, or did something happen? Was it a eureka? Were you in the theatre one night and go, I've got it?
Well, I mean, I've spent a lot of time at the Palladium
I know.
and standing in the wings, and they are dangerous places. You know, things can happen and
Yeah.
things fall down, and dangerous people. You know, performers are often dysfunctional, and so they're then vengeful and jealous, and so all the ingredients seem to be there. And dressers are underrated and undervalued,
Yes.
and I might add underpaid. I know I get on really well with my dressers because I have a lot of costume changes in Panto.
Yes.
So I spend all my time with them, and no one takes any notice of them much. So they were very well positioned to see what happens and take note and observe things.
Good detective potential, eyes and ears, like Sherlock's urchins.
But an amateur sleuth. That's what I wanted, because in my book, the police are hopeless and trying to investigate but failing. So that's why she feels compelled to take over.
Tell me a bit about the Palladium, because it's almost a character, isn't it, in your story? And you know it like every brick in the wall, as it were. What is it about that theatre? Do you think it has a special place in your heart, or does it have a special vibe to it?
It does, and I've one of those things maybe you shouldn't analyse, and I sometimes think maybe it's built on ley lines. You know, there's something special about that spot. Maybe it's because of all the amazing performers that have been on that stage, and when you walk on stage, you're nervous, so they're in a sort of heightened state, and maybe the spirits are hovering above you as you walk on stage and enter you via some psychic portal.
Yeah. So, but it made sense then that it's the theatre to set a crime novel in it. I mean, it's perfect.
I can picture it all in my head, so I know where the corridors are and what happened. It's very tight backstage at the Palladium because it was built as a variety theatre. There aren't yards of wings and spaces. Everyone's crammed in. And also above you in the flies, lots of things hanging there, lights and sets and glitter balls and stuff, things that might possibly drop down and do someone a mischief.
Everyone who goes on the stage obviously is performing and generally bringing joy to the members of the audience sitting there. But you kind of seem to suggest that there's a little, they're all a bit mad, essentially. And anyone who sits in front of, I would concur, by anyone who sits in front of a microphone for a living, in the first instance, is clearly it's a cry for help, and it's a grotesque narcissism. So let's talk about these creatures.
Well, they're unusual. I mean, I include myself in this. It's an unusual way to earn a living, to be judged all the time. So you're obviously quite a needy person to be on stage. In my book, they're all quite nasty.
Yeah.
This is no reflection on our theatrical community, but I wanted to write a book where everyone is unpleasant, apart from Jane. I like books like that. Did you ever read the Map and Lucia books by E.F. Benson?
No, tell me about them.
Well, they're very funny. They're set in a little town in Sussex, I think, and it's all about the kind of bitching and backstabbing that goes on in village life. Yeah. So this was like that. If you read Curtain Call to Murder, you get to know them all and a bit about their backstory and how they've interacted. And so everyone is a suspect, of course. Everyone has got some beef against the person that has died. And in the second draft, I changed my mind about who the murderer was. So I don't think you can read it and guess.
Yes.
I didn't know myself, as it happens.
When you were growing up, can we bounce back a little bit back to your earlier life? And you grew up in a kind of a Catholic background. As an Irishman, I'm kind of curious about this because I often find that people who grew up in strict Catholic, the Catholic Church itself is very performative. There's a lot of robes and there's a lot of jiggery pokery on the altar. I'm not being disrespectful to the church, but I'm just saying it is very theatrical.
It is, and they do it very well for all their faults. And there's also a lot of comedy. Well, a lot of comedians are Catholics, and Paul Merton pointed this out, and we wonder why. Perhaps, you have to laugh to get through with all the sins that we carry and the guilt.
Multiple Catholic guilt. Even being, when you say to a Catholic, well done, you were brilliant. No. I know you're wrong,
My great-grandfather, my mother remembers him, he was so Irish. She said she was frightened of him because she couldn't understand what he was saying. He just sat in the corner of their house in Brentford reading the Bible all day. My grandfather, who I do remember, he was the funniest one. This is where all the comedy in our family springs from.
Yes,
it's all the Irish.
Julian Peter MacDonald Clary, is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
MacDonald suggests either Irish or Scottish. I'm not sure. Do you want to?
It's Irish.
It's fully Irish.
That's my mother's maiden name.
Away. Any idea of the?
Nina.
Oh, Nina, okay.
Tipperary, that's where they all lived. I must go one day.
Have you not been?
And have a poke round the graveyard and find the other McDonald's.
Did you not do the Who Do You Think You Are programme?
Yes, and I said to them, I'm really interested in the Irish side, but Irish records weren't kept in a way anyone can understand. So they're very hard to trace. So they did the other side of my family.
Oh, I see. So they avoided that bit.
So it's a mystery that remains to be cleared up.
There's always somebody in Ireland. Anytime a president gets elected in America, there's somebody goes digging and they find an archive and go, like they have, they even had the Obamas. They found an eighth cousin called Henry, who became Henry VIII. But so they're there. You'll find something if you go searching. For sure.
Well, one day when I retire, I've got the time.
You were talking about comedy origins, and a lot of it came from. Did you say your grandfather?
Yes.
Yeah. And how was he the funny, or where did the funny come from?
Well, when people say, "Who are your comic heroes?" I always say him. And,
really?
It wasn't that he told jokes and stuff, but he was just amused by life, and we played cards a lot. So, for example. You'd be dealt your cards. He'd pick up his and he'd say, "I've got a hand like a foot," and this would be a joke that would be repeated every time he was dealt his cards, and it became one of the sort of family things that you repeat. And he put us all in a good mood, and laughter has always been really important, a way of dealing with all the rest of life in our family.
Yeah,
you trivialize it, and that seems to work for me.
Is it a protection thing, do you think, or is it?
Well, probably. But the thing is, if you laugh, you're going to feel better, whatever, and then you can go back to whatever the unpleasantness is in your life. But laughter is mutually beneficial.
Yes,
I would say.
It's funny. I was talking to Ben Elton recently, and he would have been in around the same time in terms of alternative comedy when you were kicking off.
He was, yeah.
And we were talking, listening to Dasha there as she was singing. We were having a chat about different things, and one of the things you mentioned was you talked about woke. Things being woke, and you said you quite like it. You welcome woke in a way. I thought that was very interesting. It's kind of
we were talking about the 70s and how there was a lot of danger around, and entitled men, shall we say?
Nicely put.
And now you can pick people up on that, and you can do something about it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And people don't have to tolerate things that are offending them. I think you can speak up. Is this not progress?
And you can still be funny. It doesn't take an insult to be humorous.
No, if it's funny, it's not offensive. Apparently, I think Oscar Wilde said that.
Yeah.
So I'll bear that in mind.
That's funny.
People do come and see me wanting to be slightly shocked.
There is a bit of that.
Want to see if you cross the line, and sometimes you can't tell if you've crossed the line until it's too late.
A friend of mine was telling me that it'll be my first Christmas living in London, and he said, "I've got to go to see your Panto because it is the most talked about show in town. It is the funniest show in town. What are you doing that's got this this reputation that precedes it? What's happening?
Well, I think it's the producer, Michael Harrison.
Yeah.
He likes my type of humour. So normally I'd be restrained and, they'd say, you can't say that. He'd say, oh, yes, you can say that. And can you give us some more? So it's quite rude, shall we say, in a kind of double entendre, above the children's heads way. And it's also very lavish and spectacular. They spend a lot of money on it. So it's got that kind of jaw-dropping thing.
Yeah.
It's Robin Hood this year.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
Me and Jane McDonald.
It's already. I can sense looking at you. There's a twinkle in your eye that says this is going to be good fun.
I think the jokes will write themselves, don't you?
I think so too. You won't have to say an awful lot. But it's funny. You said something there that is among my favourite humour when you think of the Muppet Show or Shrek or whatever, where they do nod at the parents who are suffering through the program or the film with the kids, to the extent that the parents are getting more enjoyment nearly out of it than the kids. But it's not cruel or crude. It's just very amusing.
And also, good will triumph over evil. So that's the kind of moral imperative that's going on. And to be honest, there aren't a lot of children come to the Palladium. Yeah. I sometimes fly across the audience. I did last year on wires. And you look down and there's only a handful. They can't afford it.
It's a lot, yeah. It's a lot to bring everyone along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I quite like that. Keep them away.
Keep them away. So any children listening today on half term, forget about it.
Well, no, they are very welcome, obviously, but it'll cost you is all I can say.
Just so you know, Robin Hood is right. Okay, Julian, congratulations on Curtain Call to Murder. People who enjoy what you do and your humour and everything else and the in between and the theatre. It's all there in one book. So
it is.
I'm delighted for you and keep them coming.
Oh, thank you.
And what a pleasure to meet you. Good luck with everything.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed.
Virgin Radio.